Obviously, City take on Arsenal on Sunday, but Liverpool take on Bournemouth before then. And this is a chance for Liverpool to either extend their lead over Arsenal and City, or how many people, certainly two people on this table might see it, it's a chance for the other two teams to potentially get back in this title race. Is this Liverpool's biggest test this season?
It's a huge test, and the way that Bournemouth are playing at the moment, they're probably the most informed side. They play unbelievable football. Obviously, they've beaten City and Arsenal at the Vitality, and they look pretty good in both of those games. I know Arsenal got a red card against City; they completely dominated them. It's a big test. There are bigger tests to come. Obviously, Liverpool still have to go to the Etihad. They still have some pretty tough away games. I do think that this is a really, really crucial bit of the season as well, because the Champions League is going to get ramped up. We know that Liverpool and Arsenal are now into the next stage. Once those games happen, neither teams have that deep a squad, in my opinion. So I think there will be quite a few drop points once we start getting into the thick of the Champions League. Now, this is the sort of last month before the next round of Champions League fixtures. And this is a really, really tough game, as I say. Bournemouth on unbelievable form. I think if Liverpool can go to Bournemouth, put in a really convincing performance, score 2 or 3, shore up their defence, don't concede many goals. I think for me, it's really, really hard to look past them for the title.
I think the one thing about Bournemouth is they always score goals. If you look at their, well, definitely recently, 5-0 against Forest, and definitely look at these last two games. They beat Forest 5-0, who a lot of people were saying could still potentially be outsiders for a title chase, and then beat Newcastle 4-1, who are they're the two other teams outside of Bournemouth that are in the best form in the league. How are they doing this? People obviously love Iraola, but what's going on?
It's very much like they're one of those teams, a little bit like Graham Potter back in the day, that they racked up a lot of XG in some of these earlier games this season. Like, I think it was the Spurs game, they absolutely battered Spurs. And I feel like they played United this season as well and absolutely dominated them. But the goals weren't coming for whatever reason, and it feels like they're cashing in on all that XG at the moment, and everything is turning to gold. Kluivert has turned into his father. All of a sudden, he is incredible. And they just feel like one of those teams that are going to make it really difficult for Liverpool. And we spoke about Arsenal and City potentially being cagey. I don't think this is going to be a cagey game. I think this is going to be a very exciting game, and I look forward to watching it. And it's a big part of the season too, as we say, because psychologically, as you know I like to talk about, if Liverpool do win, they're kind of sending a message to Arsenal, and I think that will make Arsenal very nervous, thinking like, damn, we need to win to stay in the title race. Whereas if Liverpool do drop points, then Arsenal will see it as a big opportunity, not only to get one up against City again, but also to catch up on Liverpool, and it will get squeaky bum time if it goes to 4 points.
I think the task for Liverpool, like you both said, basically is just to get the job done. I think this is one of them ones, and we spoke about this off air. It's a 3 p.m. game. These are quite nice. Like, not many people are watching. You know, Dango Ouattara at a midday game on Saturdays going, I'm turning up because I might get a transfer. Semenyo's turning up. Whereas for Liverpool, obviously they go into this and they go, barely anyone's watching this game. We just got to get the job done. I said before we started recording, in my opinion, Bournemouth are the best team in the league in terms of how they play. They just don't have the players to execute it every single week. So, for example, Liverpool have one of the best teams in the league, and so their style, they can make it happen every time they play. How do Liverpool win this game? I know that sounds like a mad question considering they're top of the league, but when you come up against the most informed team, some of the best players in the league on current form, and the best manager in the league on current form,
I think they're quite similar. I think both teams are quite similar, and I think they play a slightly similar style of play. And as you say, I think it's going to be a really exciting game because it will be really end to end. I think Liverpool win the game by the players that they have because they just have better players than Bournemouth. I think watching the game, I would imagine that the counter-attacks, the attacks will be pretty similar. They'll probably have a similar amount. I just think that Liverpool have better killers. You've got Mohamed Salah, who's probably the best player in the world right now. I know Patrick Kluivert's on unbelievable form, but there are levels. There are levels to this game, and I think Liverpool need to win. It's obviously not a must-win because of where they are and the points that they have, but this is such a huge psychological advantage. The fact that they played before Arsenal as well, the fact that Arsenal play against Manchester City, who are their foes of the last 3 years, that game already has enough pressure on it for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. And if Liverpool get 3 points, it mounts extra pressure. And if Arsenal do falter, then Liverpool can start flying away with the title. So I think I'm not sure if there's going to be like a specific game plan that you need to use to quell Bournemouth, because it's going to be an open game. You're going to concede lots of chances. You're going to concede lots of fast-flowing counter-attacks. You just need to score when you can.
I think what is interesting in what you just said there is that both teams play in transition effectively. They're the two best teams in transition in the league this season for sure. Maybe Forest might counter that, but because of that, it almost makes you go, well, who's going to keep the ball? And like you know when two teams come up against each other, it's like a basketball match. Sometimes the team that keeps the ball slightly better tends to win it, and that's where I look at this midfield battle and I go, Tyler Adams has had to come in. And to be fair, Bournemouth have so many injuries as well. By the way, they're dealing really well with it. With what people are saying is an injury crisis. How many injuries is an injury crisis now?
Earlier, they have 8. They have 8 or 9 first team players.
Yeah,
injured,
that's a crisis.
But when I look at this 11, I'm going, that's their back four, bar the right back.
Yeah.
That's their midfield, bar Tyler Adams, and bar Brooks. That's their front four, and maybe Lautaro. So that's 4 players. Is that an injury crisis?
Yeah, but I think the way you look at it as well, if Cook's playing at right back, he's probably their third or he's a defensive mid, so they've got their first and second choice right back out. I think it's so impressive the way he's managed to keep them performing this well. If anything, even perform better since Tyler Adams has come into the team. He's unbeaten. I looked early. He's had 6 starts this season, unbeaten in all of them. Yeah, and I think he leads in interceptions and tackles per 90 this season. So that's really interesting. That there's a lot of players with something to prove in this team, and interestingly, someone who is a starter but will have a lot to prove, not for Bournemouth but against Liverpool, is Salah's opposition Kirkez, because someone who has been strongly linked with Liverpool, Robertson, is definitely on his way out and coming up against who I also believe is the best player in the world right now. That is a big test.
I think the 2 fullback areas for Bournemouth, in my opinion, is where the game gets decided, because Cook is not a right back. He could do a job there, obviously, but he's a midfielder, so he tends to come inside quite a lot. And Cody Gakpo has been in such good form this season, and he sort of preys on these fullbacks that fall asleep. Walker at Man City. You knew I was going to reference that one. Yeah. But fullbacks that get caught just staring at where the ball is. And that's basically what Cook does, because he wants to get in possession. And then on the other side, Milos Kerkez, by the way, he's a tank for a guy of his size. If you remember was it the Newcastle goal?
Yeah, where he just ran through and smashed
He's
it.
huge.
Yeah.
And he takes on Salah, who I do think is now naturally not performing to the level he was in the first 10 games. It's absolutely inevitable to happen. But then behind him is Trent, who I think, bar the Manchester United game, has been so good this season. How do Bournemouth stop that right side?
It's really, really difficult, isn't it? Trent Alexander-Arnold and Mohamed Salah. I think the only way that you can do that is by getting reinforcements over to that right-hand side. So getting Tyler Adams to fill in if Kirkez goes forward, trying to keep Semenyo from going too far forward so they're not overexposed. But then you lose Semenyo in his pace, and he's been one of the best players.
Well,
so
Semenyo
far.
versus Trent is
that's another one as well. And then, if Adams goes over to cover, then the midfield's open, and you've got fantastic midfield players. So it is going to be incredibly difficult for Bournemouth, which is why I think in a lot of these games, when you're on unbelievable form and you are so great at transition and you are so great at attack, just play the way that you've been playing. Don't be put off by who the opposition are. And I know, obviously, I'm not a football tactician, and I know there will be individual battles over there that Iraola will be discussing as we speak right now. But sometimes there's a case to say, just play the football that has been working for you. They went to St James's Park, probably the second most informed team in the league, won 4-1, and then they beat Forest 5-0. So they obviously can take big games to big teams. So I think they should just do exactly the same this weekend.
All right, score prediction.
I think, again, I'll go boring, actually. I think Liverpool win 2-1. I think Bournemouth's goal will probably be taking advantage of Trent being higher up the pitch. We've seen Konate, I don't blame him, but he's having to cover so much ground, and also Ouattara tends to kind of veer to the left anyway. So I think they'll see that as an opportunity to target your right-hand side. But you'll just have too much firepower, and probably Salah and Gakpo will score, as they seem to be doing every week.
I think there'll be more goals in it than that. I do think Liverpool will win. I think Liverpool are my favourites for the title. But I can see Bournemouth causing a bit of a problem, getting a couple of early goals. So I think 4-2 is what I'm going to go for.
I was thinking 2-2 again, like sitting on the fence again. And the only thing is, the one thing I was thinking about with Bournemouth is Ouattara scored 3 against Forest, and if you watch that game, it wasn't a 5-0 game. It was actually a 2-0 game. But it's one of them ones now, like when you look back at the form table, you go, oh, they smashed one of the other good teams. And the Newcastle game wasn't a 4-1 either. So I'm a little bit like, hold on a minute. Like, as James rightly pointed out, they've almost like you can't cash in XG. If you don't know what XG is, I promise you, just give it a Google. It's not something you can cash in. And so I think I'm gonna go 3-2 Liverpool. Actually, let's go 3-2 Liverpool.